The New York Knickerbockers, the first ever NBA team. Well, the oldest NBA team in existence because they were part of the NBA in 1946. The first ever game was November 1st, 1946. 73 years ago today, they took on the Toronto Huskies at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, and the Knicks won by 2 points. What a time to be alive if you're in the New York Knicks. The oldest team in existence in the NBA. Boston can't hold a candle. Well, Boston's lasted longer, but the Knicks played in the first ever game in the NBA, so technically they're the oldest. So anyway, the New York Knicks were a dominant team in the 1940s and all that. And unfortunately, in modern times, they haven't really been doing so well. The Knicks always played in one of the best markets in sport and college basketball and pro basketball, but can't really put up numbers to save their lives. The 1960s were a disaster for them. They always seemed to come behind Boston and Philadelphia. But in 1970, the New York Knicks went on a nice run and got to the NBA Finals against the LA Lakers, where Will Chamberlain and LA were waiting for them. The Knicks would suffer a big loss when Willis Reed, their star center, injured himself in the aftermath of things and couldn't play Game 6. The Knicks lost that game. Game 7, he wasn't going to allow the team to have to play without him. So he hobbled onto the court and made 2 shots. His only 2 attempts at the bucket were good. And the Knicks, with Clyde Frazier and Dave DeBusschere, among others, made sure that Willis's heroics were not in vain as the New York Knickerbockers won the 1970 NBA championship. Finally, they had a title. And then all of a sudden, you got yourself another title win in 1973. Oh, did I forget to mention that the 1970 NBA Finals was had one of the best half-court heaves of all time. In Game 4, the Knicks were up by 2 against the Lakers, and then Jerry West heaved a 70-footer, well, like over half court and scored the bucket. Unfortunately, there was no 3-point line, so that it only counted for 2 points. If it counted for 3, it would have been one of the greatest shots of all time. I believe the Lakers still won that game anyway. So anyway, the Knicks won in 1973 again, and people thought the Knicks were going to be good. Unfortunately, they suffered through a gap of bad things. Bernard King basically put the Knicks on his back, but he got injured a lot. And basically his career went downhill, and the Knicks got rid of him. Alongside Michael Ray Richardson, but Michael Ray Richardson got in trouble with the law for gambling. So, yeah. The Knicks got a lucky pop in 1985 when they were the victorious team in the first ever NBA draft lottery. Dave DeBusschere and his lucky horseshoe worked. Basketball is back in New York, said Pat O'Brien on CBS when he did the draft lottery. Of course, the 1985 draft lottery is controversial because if you look at how it's set up, with one guy putting 7 envelopes of the 7 teams that didn't make the playoffs into a drum, he puts the first 3 in neatly and then bangs the 4th against the side of the drum, and then the other 3 did not do it. And then, of course, he spun it, and then David Stern took that big sigh, thinking, where is that envelope? There's the envelope, right there. This is the right envelope, I hope. So anyway, the 1985 Knicks got Patrick Ewing. I mean, karma bit the Knicks in the butt because Ewing never won an NBA title with the New York Knicks and all that. And obviously, they didn't want Indianapolis or Sacramento getting Patrick Ewing because it's like, why the hell would he go from Georgetown to a hick team? Whatever. So anyway, Patrick Ewing was good when he was not injured. So anyway, the Knicks gathered some players. They picked up Charlie Ward, who won the Heisman Trophy but unfortunately, because he said that he would use his basketball career as leverage in the NFL draft, the NFL didn't really draft him. So the NBA said, the Knicks said, let's take this Charlie Ward. Maybe he'll be good on the court. He was good. He wasn't great, but he was good. So anyway, the Knicks balanced themselves up. In 1994, they had a team that shocked everyone by beating the Chicago Bulls in the conference finals. Of course, the Knicks had one of the best marks in the Eastern Conference. With that, but of course, without Michael Jordan, it would have a little bit of asterisks next to it. Anyway, the Knicks always had troubles with Michael Jordan in the playoffs. 93, they actually nearly got MJ, but the Bulls hung on in 6 games in that conference semifinals. So anyway, the Knicks took advantage of it, but the Bulls weren't too eager. 94, they actually pulled off rabbits out of the hat and only lost game 7. So the Knicks won in 7 games at conference final, and they would take on the Houston Rockets in the NBA Finals. The Knicks surprisingly used the ghosts that were helping the New York Rangers win the Stanley Cup to their advantage, as they ended up with a 3-2 series lead, going back to Houston for Game 6. And Patrick Ewing and John Starks both had chances to end the game, but Hakeem Olajuwon made that famous block off the fingertips with time running down in Game 6 to force a Game 7. And then John Starks, who was hot in Game 6, went ice cold, one of the worst Game 7 performances of all time. I mean, he didn't have to shoot threes. He could have just shot field goals. It all added up, and Houston beat New York to win the 94 championship. The Knicks would be involved in another tight playoff series. That'd be in the conference semifinals against the Indiana Pacers in 95, when Reggie Miller, in Game 1 in New York, stepped up with a three-pointer, and then he stole the ball and came back with another three-pointer. So he got scored 8 points in the final 15 seconds to sink the Knicks in Game 1, and the Knicks didn't really fully recover from that. The Knicks would make a Cinderella run in 1999, buoyed by Allen Houston's jumper with 0.8 seconds left to take down the number 1 seed Miami Heat and give an 8 seed their second ever win against a 1 seed, first time in 5 years. The Knicks would go on to sweep the Atlanta Hawks and then take down the Indiana Pacers with Reggie Miller still in his prime. It was amazing to see the Knicks take down Larry Johnson with his very famous 4-point play that should not have been a 4-point play. And then, of course, Larry Johnson, post-game, congratulating Love for his stuff. If that happened 3 years later, he would have been ostracized because, about the Muslims and 9/11 in New York. So anyway, the New York Knicks got to the NBA Finals, but the San Antonio Spurs showed them no mercy. In 2000, though, the Knicks took care of the fledgling Toronto Raptors in their first ever playoff series, 3 straight. And then in 2001, they were looking to sweep the Raptors again, but choked both games in Toronto. No biggie, they had a Game 5 at home. But Alvin Williams and Vince Carter wouldn't let that happen, as they both pulled out great shots, and the Knicks shockingly lost Game 5 to the Toronto Raptors, giving the Raptors a trip to Philadelphia to face the Sixers. The Knicks would, honestly, by the mid-2000s, basically go to also-rans. They had only 1 or 2 good playoff appearances in the past 15 years. That's shocking. They had Carmelo Anthony, who was the face of the franchise, if you will, but they didn't really have any other pieces around him. That's the problem. It's what's these teams some days. So anyway, the New York Knicks were good. One New York Knicks team that should have been to the final was the 97 New York Knicks. The 97 Knicks were the 3 seed, and after taking care of the Charlotte Hornets in 4 games, they took care of business against the Miami Heat in a pivotal 3-1 series. So the first 4 games saw the Knicks win in 4, one of the best around. That is amazing. All that. Knicks and Heat in Game 5, there was a big courtside brawl when P.J. Brown of the Heat body slammed Charlie Ward, causing the benches to clear. The Knicks had problems. Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Allen Houston, and Larry Johnson left the bench and automatically got 1-game suspensions. The Knicks, unfortunately, undermanned, blew it. And that was the first time the Knicks and the Heat really fought each other. 98 would be another spectacular time. But anyway, that was huge for the Knicks. They lost all their 4 key stars because they left the bench because of a brawl. If they were level headed, they would have probably not let that happen. So anyway, the 1997 conference semifinals went to Miami, who then got taken down by the Bulls. So the Knicks, okay, so they take a 3-1 series lead, but the Knicks don't have to deal with the brawl and take care of Miami. So the Knicks will take on the Bulls. Obviously, the Bulls are number one in the East, so that's that. And of course, the Bulls are the 1997 champions. So we'll see what happens. Well, you got yourself the 97 Knicks and the 97 Bulls. Man, these 97 Bulls almost were just as good as the 96 team. They won 69 games instead of 70. Wow, that's close. You got yourself Childs, Houston, Johnson, Oakley, and Ewing for the Knicks. Steve Kerr, MJ, Pippen, Rodman, Wally for the Bulls. Let's see how this happens. Game 1 sees the Knicks shock the Bulls in the first quarter and win an 8-point game. 33 from Ewing in 41 minutes. Oakley, 10 points in 37 minutes. Larry Johnson, Chris Childs, and Allen Houston all played 30 minutes. Buck Williams, John Starks, Charlie Ward, and John Wallace are all on the bench. Johnny Wallace, the Syracuse star, who the previous year led Syracuse to the NCAA Finals against Kentucky. Buck Williams, John Starks, Charlie Ward, veterans. The Bulls, 22 from Pippen. MJ only got 19. Kerr got 18. So they decided to use Ron Harper, Randy Brown, Bill Wennington from Canada, Dickie Simpkins, Judd Buchler, Robert the Chief Parrish was on that team. I know he played for the 96 Bulls, but I didn't know he played past 96. Jason Caffey and Tony Kukoc. Why was Kukoc only playing for 2 minutes? That's not his MO. Something fishy is happening. That's why they did only one. Yeah, I think so too. Game 2 sees the Bulls pull one out of the hat by only 1 point. It was 88-87 Knicks. When Luke Longley got a rebound, MJ gets fouled by Larry Johnson. Rodman and Kerr come in for Harper and Simpkins. MJ makes both free throws. Patrick Ewing has a jump shot from the free throw line denied by MJ. The Knicks had a chance to run down the clock, and they failed to take that 2-0 seriously. Oakley with only 20 points. So yeah, the Knicks really have their starters. Scott Brooks, wait a minute. Wasn't he coach of Oklahoma City and Houston? I think that's the one. So anyway, the Bulls, 40 minutes from MJ for 33 points for Simpkins. Matt Stanika. Kukoc only played 2 minutes. Yikes. I thought he would play more than that. Stanichka even hit a bucket. That guy? Huh. Series tied at 1, headed to MSG. MSG not kind to the Bulls, but the first quarter was. They beat them 22-10, and then they took a 15-point win. MJ and Pippen, 24 and 22 respectively. No one even got more than 5 points. Ron Harper. So basically, Kukoc gets 5 minutes and 4 points. Good. Patrick Ewing is the Knicks scorer with 13. Larry Johnson, 10. Basically, it's like all that. Walter McCarty and Chris Gent made their debuts for the 97 Knicks. Walter McCarty, boy. The Knicks went crazy, getting one guy from Syracuse, one guy from Kentucky. And then the Bulls crushed the Knicks 96-74 in Game 4. 27 from MJ, 24 from Pippen. Nobody else gets double digits. Luke Longley's the third best guy with 8. Steady gets a point. Jason Caffey. 17 from Ewing, 13 from Oakley. No one else with double digits. So, yeah. The Bulls just need to win one more game and beat this scenario. And they do, 98-88. So the Knicks, not even close. They win one game and they fucking don't do anything else. 20 from Allen Houston. They only used 9 players in that game. The Knicks don't really go deep into the bench and all that. The Bulls used 13 players. That Bill Wennington, Ron Harper. So 35 from MJ, Pippen was 16. So yeah, Kukoc played 4 minutes and got 2 points. I guess they didn't really need Kukoc at all. But they do need the rest of the team. And the Knicks learned that you don't mess with the defending champions.